Monday in Simpsonville, and we're expecting snow Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They say as much as 6 inches, maybe as little as 1.5 to 2 inches, but nevertheless, it's going to be another school closing and another traffic snarl and extreme winter again. In the book of Exodus, chapter 2, tell me, was Moses a murderer? Was Moses a murderer? Question number 2, how do we know his sin was found out? How do we know his sin was found out? Question number 3, where and for how long did Moses flee once his sin was found out? How long and where did he go when Moses' sin was found out? Number 4, what event again showed Moses cared for people? What event in chapter 2 happened that shows us that Moses cared for people? Number 5, what can we learn about God's timing from this chapter in the book of Exodus? What can we learn about God's timing from this book, chapter 2 of Exodus? Well, I think it's very important that we realize that Moses was not heard of after Pharaoh's daughter found him in scriptures. That we just don't see him until he was grown up. But in chapter 2, we find out that he had grown up. And he saw an Egyptian beating on an Israelite. And he looked around carefully to be sure nobody was looking. And he struck him. The question is, did he strike him to kill him? Or did he just strike him and the death was a result of that? Nevertheless, he hid the body. So he looked around and he hid the body. It was premeditated and tried to cover it up. Was Moses a murderer? Yes, he was. Question number 2. How do we know about his sin? How was it found out? Well, in chapter 2, verses 12 through 14, there were 2 Hebrews fighting with each other, and Moses went over to try to break that up, and they said, are you going to kill one of us too? So we know somebody saw it. But you know what we need to remember? God sees everything. Even if those 2 Israelites hadn't known about Moses' sin of murder, God knew it. Question number 3. Where and for how long did Moses flee? Well, we know that he fled to Midian, and that it was quite a while. It was long enough to marry and to have a child. But I'm not sure we know exactly how many years he was out there in the wilderness hiding. But we do know that once the current Pharaoh died, then God came to him, and he wanted Moses to take on the task that he had for him. Well, what event do we know that he cared for people? Well, you see, he cared about the Israelite that was being beaten by the Egyptian. He cared about the 2 Israelites that were fighting with each other. And I believe that God always looks for a tender heart, a caring heart, even sometimes if it's misdirected. And he cares about people. You'll see that as you continue to study the life of Moses. And when he came to the wilderness, there were 7 daughters of a priest watering their flock, and some of the shepherds tried to drive them away, but Moses interceded there as well. Moses cared for people. All of God's shepherds ought to care for people. Question number 5. What can we learn about God's timing? God's timing is always perfect. The people had been in bondage quite a while. The people had found hardship for quite a while. Moses had been headstrong and killed, but now he had mellowed in the wilderness a little bit, and God came to him at just the right time when the people were really crying out to God. He said, Moses, I've got a job for you. You see, we learn that about God's timing. His timing is always perfect. We may think he's delaying, and we may think that there's no reason for the delay, but there's always a reason for God to work in his timing. And his timing is always perfect. That's your thought for the day. God bless you and have a great day.